Good morning, Minister.
Morning.
Okay, we just thank you for taking the time out to come and join us. As you know, Surrey
Oh
is
my
now
goodness.
close to 50 files open on extortion, and many of them are related with shootings. Uh, I know you know that Swift Radio, a Punjabi local media right here in Surrey, had gunshots fired on Monday evening, and people in Surrey are worried. People in media are worried because this is the first attack on media to silence our voice as we talk about this and have been talking about this issue. So, Minister, what news do you have for us?
Firstly, Jenny, I just have to share how heartbroken, how angry I am that Swift FM has been targeted in this way. As you point out, this is brazen, abhorrent, and an act meant to intimidate by targeting the very heart of our democracy, the media. And I want to assure you and listeners that the province is doing everything possible to support investigations into these crimes and to bring criminals to justice. Since we last spoke, and this was around the announcement of the provincial task force to combat extortion, we have seen the Bishnoi gang be named a terrorist entity by the Government of Canada, and we're proud that BC has led the charge in the country that has led to that designation. This means that police have more tools to investigate these crimes. As you know, we've also stood up the Provincial Extortion Task Force, which is a dedicated team of now 46 officers from provincial and federal agencies. Since we last spoke, we've added 6 additional officers to that task force. We've also made additional funding available to municipal police forces that are investigating these crimes and are ensuring that the investigators are well supported with every tool able to carry out their investigations that will ultimately lead in convictions.
Minister, thank you for that. The question I have is how is the designation of Bishnoi gang as a terrorist organization, like, how is that going to help to get action on this file, to get results?
So what the terrorist entity designation provides is a few concrete new tools for investigators. Extortion is about money, and we need to hit these criminals where it hurts, in their bank accounts, in their wallets. So the designation of extortion means that money, property, vehicles that are owned by the group in Canada can be frozen or seized. Also, it strengthens the ability to prosecute terrorism-related offenses in addition to regular criminal offenses. So anything related to financing or recruitment or travel related to terrorist crimes can be prosecuted in a new way.
So,
In
Minister,
addition,
yeah.
yeah.
Minister, I have one question. You took, and I really appreciate the answer you gave on the Bishnoi, and I hope and pray that what you say works. But the question I have, and I know we have a very limited time, so I want to make sure I get this question in. We have created a new task force and you've added bodies to it, and that is really good. But here we are. We already had a CFSEU, the Combined Forces Special Enforcement Unit in BC, whose mandate is to target, investigate, prosecute, disrupt, and dismantle organized crime groups and individuals that pose the highest risk to public safety. So we already had a structure, a system in place with, I believe, staffing that is quite comprehensive. Is that unit, number one, why was this file not handed over into that unit? And if not, how is that unit with which is very richly resourced, now working with the new task force?
Yeah, and thank you for that question, because the Combined Forces Special Investigation Unit receives $100 million in funding annually from the province to carry out their integrated investigations targeting organized crime. And they are at the table and an integral part of the provincial task force. The provincial task force brings them together with provincial RCMP, with federal RCMP, with Canadian Border Service agencies. And this really underscores the nature of extortion crimes, which have deeply local impacts on communities, but have a national and international dimension. So the BC Extortion Task Force reflects the fact that these crimes are complex, they are national and international in scope, and really require a comprehensive and coordinated effort. And the organized crime experts are at the table and working with this task force.
So, will the task force have full access to the resources in the CFSEU?
Yes.
Thank you, Minister.
Minister, there have been a growing concern about the safety, about the threats and attack on journalists. And especially, I would like to bring your attention to South Asian media, which are covering crime stories and other stories, especially in Surrey. So, what's your ministry doing to protect freedom of press and also safety of all the reporters?
Yeah. As I noted, freedom of the press is essential to democracy. And we take this crime that transpired yesterday, with extreme seriousness. And it is now being led, the investigation is being led by the Provincial Task Force on Extortion. And we're ensuring that all victims of extortion are supported through the BC Crime Victim Assistance Program. And the task force can also work with victims to implement safety plans and ensure that anyone associated with that has been targeted has a safety plan and is safe.
A major concern we're hearing from both the police and we've heard from the mayor, and it's been raised in public, is that BC is only one of two jurisdictions in Canada where the police does not have the right to lay charges. And that if police had the right to lay charges, we would see action and results a lot sooner. Number one, is the provincial government moving towards that? And if so, we hope it's very quickly. And the second request we're hearing over and over again is when cases go to Crown, they sit on a prosecutor's desk endlessly, and no action gets taken. So the request from Surrey Police, and I hear it from the mayor today as well, for a dedicated prosecutor or a team of prosecutors assigned specifically to extortion files. Is that what the government is looking at?
So in terms of the police laying charges, we have seen in other jurisdictions where this is the case that the ability for the police to lay charges doesn't necessarily result in more convictions. And our ultimate goal is to put these criminals behind bars. And we've seen in other jurisdictions also that extortion is a complex crime. I think that is the issue, not our justice system, but the complexity of the crime that take time to investigate. And we want to ensure that when charges are laid, that criminals are put behind bars and justice is served.
So, are you looking at dedicated Crown prosecutors to deal with extortion so that files don't languish on somebody's desk because of overwork?
So any issues related to Crown Counsel and the appointment, let's say, of a special prosecutor are made independently of government. And there may be a bit of misunderstanding that a special prosecutor is generally appointed by the Crown where there's real or perceived conflict of interest that requires independence, like if a politician or member of the police is being investigated. The problem here is around we need to ensure that the investigation receives all of the resources that are required, and that is what we are doing. And I'm in regular communication with Attorney General Nikki Sharma to ensure that prosecutors are adequately resourced to pursue these complex files.
Minister, in terms of money, do you have information that people are paying? And if they are, where the money is going?
I'm not able to answer questions about active investigations, but my message to the community is that if you receive an extortion attempt, to not pay the requested money, that this potentially emboldens criminals, and to report anything that happens immediately to police. The Surrey Police Force has a dedicated line to go to your local police, or there's also Crime Stoppers, which is taking calls for people that wish to maintain anonymity. And any and all information shared with police can support investigation.
Minister, extortions have been going on since 24, and we know that they have since this June, according to SPS, they have just spiked up. So do we know how many arrests have been made and how many charges have been laid?
So that's a question that's best answered by police. I can say that these are complex investigations that are being investigated by police around the clock, and that the province is making sure that police have every available tool to support these investigations, which are complex and which we need to result in these criminals being held to account and put behind bars.
Thank you, Minister. I have one last question. My question is this: victims. At first, we were hearing from authorities, people are not reporting. People are not reporting. But after having found out that we have close to 50 files since June, people are reporting. But what are the mechanisms in place, and who is responsible for victim safety? Because the people who are being extorted, they are reporting, but once they report, the news, the stories they're telling us is that victim safety does not appear to be a priority. Saying to them, don't answer the phone, stay at home, leave town for a while, do not seem like a good safety plan.
I want to underscore that victim safety, that community safety, is an absolute priority. And when information is reported to police, police are able to develop plans to ensure safety of individuals. And when we stood up the provincial task force, we ensured that there is dedicated expertise involved in developing personal safety plans for people that have received threats. And so just to underscore that the importance of reporting these crimes, and that police will work to ensure victim safety, and that additional resources for victims may be available through the government. We have something called a crime victim assistance program that includes counseling and protective measures. And I've had a chance to speak to businesses, to community members that have been, and to you, representatives of the media that have been targeted by extortion. And these are vile, brazen acts that we are ensuring the police have all of the dedicated resources needed to hold these criminals to account.
Minister, my final plea with you is this. We are not talking about counseling. That is further down the road. We are talking about people's physical safety. We are talking about, I'm looking at the ring made that if I was sitting in this chair on Monday night, would have gone through my head. And other bullets right in the studio. What we're talking about is people's physical safety and victims needing to feel safe. And my fear is if the police and authorities cannot ensure the victim's safety, that people will begin to take things into their own hands and stop reporting. And that is not where we want to go. So, Minister, please, to the task force, to all the different groups working on this, please stress and ensure, as our Solicitor General in charge of public safety, that individual safety of victims is given top priority.
Jenny, thank you for that. And I think that the piece about counseling recognizes there are families involved, there are children that are potentially impacted here. And I understand that the physical safety of community members and this ongoing safety of people that have been targeted is not only the community's top priority, but the province's top priority. And as Solicitor General, I am committed to ensuring public safety, and we will continue to do everything within our power to investigate these crimes and hold criminals to account. We all want to see these criminals behind bars.
Minister, thank you for joining us. And we in Surrey are waiting for results of police action, arrests, and charges, so that we can put an end to this wave of terrific violence.
We share that very same goal. And I'd like to thank you, Jenny, and thank your entire team for your courage, for doing the work that you are doing as members of our media. As we've noted, the freedom of the press is essential to our safe, vibrant democracies, and the work you're doing is vital. And I'm so appreciative for you and what you do.
Thank you. Yesterday was our day off, no programming, but our hosts, very brave hosts, got together. We sat in the very same studio where there are gunshots, and we did a program on extortion and on violent crime, and we are not going to be silenced.
And we stand with you.
Thank
Jenny,
you.
and we stand with.
Thank you, Minister.
Thank you, Jenny.